Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Music Talks. This week's feature is a band that has taken the indie scene by storm called Arcade Fire. This husband and wife-led phenomenon exploded onto the music scene recently and has seen continual success. So, where did they get their start? When Win Butler, the lead vocalist, first heard Regine Tristani in 2001, he asked her to sing with him. She thought he was hitting on her and was tentative to accept the invitation, and upon finally meeting him, she made sure her hair was a mess and wore her ugliest jeans. It turns out that they wrote a song that night, and soon began dating and were engaged by New Year's Eve of 2002. What began with the two of them blossomed into what is Arcade Fire today. Current members of the band are Jeremy Gara on drums, Richard Perry on bass, Sarah Neufeld playing the violin, William Butler, who is Win's brother, on the keyboard, and Tim Kingsbury on guitar. For time's sake, I'll stick to the personal background just of Win and Regine. Win was born in California and raised in Texas under a Mormon upbringing. He attended the Phillips Exeter Academy in New Hampshire and after graduation began studying photography and creative writing at Sarah Lawrence College. The lifestyle was not for him, though, because people were consistently critiquing his art, and that really bothered him. He decided to go to Montreal and enroll in McGill University, where he would later meet Regine. As for Regine, she was born in Canada in 1977 and grew up in the suburbs of Montreal. Her parents immigrated from Haiti in order to escape the dictatorship of François Duvalier. She earned a bachelor's degree in communications at Concordia University and then studied jazz voice at McGill University. She would later meet Win as she was singing at an art opening, and she plays many instruments including accordion, drums, xylophone, and organ. She also performs backup and lead vocals in some of their songs. The band's first album is titled Funeral and was released in 2004. The album had 5 singles and featured one of their more powerful songs, Wake Up, which Win Butler referred to as an FU song in a Rolling Stone interview. It's gotten much attention because they generally close their shows with it, being such an epic song. The booklet that comes with the CD version of the album actually shows some insight on Funeral as well. It says that the album was written around the time when some of the members fled from Texas to Ontario, Canada, and had to deal with the long winters there. They recorded in the Hotel Tutango and also in Win and Regine's apartment. As far as the reasoning behind the album title, the last line in the booklet reads this: "When family members keep dying, they realize that they should call their record Funeral," noting the irony of their first full-length recording bearing a name with such closure. Arcade Fire's next album would focus on religion and the problems that they have with it, and it's titled Neon Bible, and definitely is not recommended for anyone who would take offense to anti-religious views. The music's not necessarily violent or arrogant, but sends a rather sarcastic viewpoint. This album was released in 2007 and was ironically recorded in a church that was fashioned into a recording studio. It features a song that was already recorded called No Cars Go, and that was recorded a few years back. After they decided on the title of the album, the band became more driven after they watched TV preachers and get-rich-quick schemes on YouTube. Win commented on this album saying that the focus was on the ocean and on television, both of which symbolize a lack of control. The real talent of the band members is exposed when they use less common instruments like the mandolin, the accordion, and the pipe organ. The next album on Arcade Fire's timeline is titled The Suburbs and is what really brought them into the spotlight. It was released in August 2012 and was number 1 on the Irish, UK, Canada, and United States album charts. Actually, upon winning the Album of the Year at the 2011 Grammys, the announcer didn't even recognize the band or the album. It astonishingly beat out albums by Lady Antebellum, Katy Perry, Eminem, and Lady Gaga. The band describes the album as neither a love letter to nor an indictment of the suburbs. It's a letter from the suburbs, end quote. This is just a great way to describe the tone of the album, but I'll talk more about that later in the show. Most of the content is inspired by Win and William's childhood in the suburbs of the Woodlands, Texas, and also Regine's childhood in the suburbs as well. The band's most recent album is called Reflector and has yet again a completely different sound than their other albums. It features more of a dancey yet dark and intense feel, and it's really distinct to Arcade Fire. Win told Rolling Stone that a lot of the background from this album comes from his experiences in Haiti and Jamaica. And this is most recognizable in the songs Flashbulb Eyes and Here Comes the Nighttime, both of which feature Jamaican instruments and sounds. As for the title of the album, Wynn mentioned an essay titled The Prestige Age, in which refers to a reflective age compared to a passionate age. In the essay, it was mentioned that in the reflective age, people are judgmental and self-absorbed, which explains a lot about the ideas of reflector. And in the passionate age, people are kind-hearted and selfless. So as you can see, the lyrics of Arcade Fire are meant to express ideas and gets its listeners thinking. All right, now let's talk about the music on these albums. In order from my least to most favorites, I'll start with Funeral. Not that I don't love the album, it just happens to be the one that I listen to the least. The album begins with Neighborhood 1, Tunnels, which I think opens it very nicely. You hear keyboards slowly starting the song before Wynn starts to sing, almost reminding me of The Morning, the way it sounds. The next few songs tend to blur together for me because they're all called The Neighborhood, number 2, number 3, and number 4. The middle track is called Crown of Love, which is followed by Wake Up, which happens to be one of my favorites of all their songs. This one has a really powerful message and sound that would resonate with anyone, I think. My favorite lyric goes like this. We're just a million little gods causing rainstorms, turning every good thing to rust. I guess we'll just have to adjust. This, along with so many of their lyrics, is calling out society and pointing out the fact that we're ruining things with our careless actions. This also reminds me of what Wynn was saying about Reflector, as I mentioned earlier, the reflective age versus the passionate age. The next song on Funeral is called Haiti, which features a dancey sound similar to a couple songs on Reflector as well. This song's followed by Rebellion, Lies, and ends with In the Backseat, which is very comparable to Death. The song obviously ends the album for a reason because it sort of represents life dwindling. Lyrics like, I like the peace in the backseat, and My family tree's losing all its leaves, references to death, but in more of a peaceful way, I think. Next on my list is Neon Bible. As I mentioned earlier, it's highly offensive to anyone affiliated with religion, especially Christian. A lot of the songs feature an organ and cast a sort of dark and dismal shadow. Though the music points a pessimistic finger at organized religion, it does not suggest violence. The album opens with Black Mirror, a rather intense song, and then moves into Keep the Car Running, which is an upbeat song about running away. And then next is the title track, which really begins to address the religion. Some lyrics include a vial of hope and a vial of pain. In the light, they both look the same. Pour them out all over the world on every boy and every girl. I think this is referring to creationism in a way. And then it ends with not much chance for survival if the Neon Bible is true. Like I said, it's pretty intense. The middle song, Ocean of Noise, features beautiful instrumental sections ending with trumpets, and then skipping a few songs up until the more passionate Windowsill, and then comes No Cars Go, which, as I said, was recorded before this album was thought of. The last song on Neon Bible is called My Body's a Cage, and some lyrics that I take away from it include, we're living in an age that calls darkness light, and then I'm standing on a stage of fear and self-doubt. It's a hollow play, but they'll clap anyway. So from what I understand about this album, the band wanted to get the point across that not only is organized religion causing unrest, but also society is focusing on the wrong things. My second favorite is Reflector, and this album opens with the title track, which at first I wasn't a fan of, but it eventually grew on me, which is actually what usually happens with their music. I recall reading in the Rolling Stone interview that they described his album as making its listeners want to dance with a tear in your eye, which I think is the perfect way to sum it up. Reflector is a prime example of that quote. And then comes We Exist, which I recently learned is about a gay boy coming out to his father. Flashbulb Eyes is track 3, and that has that dance beat that I mentioned, and is followed by Here Comes the Nighttime, which is one of my favorites. It's one of those songs that you just can't help but dance to, and also has some pretty great lyrics. For example, they say heaven's a place. Yeah, heaven's a place, and they know where it is. But you know where it is. It's behind the gate that won't let you in, which has the same sort of feel as Neon Bible. And then the other one, when I hear the beat, the spirit's on me like a live wire, 1,000 horses running wild in a city on fire. And that one helps explain the sudden need to dance when the song is playing. The next song on Reflector is called Normal Person and is another one of my favorites. And the best lyric from this song would have to be, is anything as strange as a normal person? Is anyone as cruel as a normal person? And then the song ends with the repeating lyrics, "I've never really ever met a normal person." It raises a really good question. What is normal? And then the last two songs on the first disc are good, but I don't really tend to listen to them too much. In the spirit of the reflection and the mirror theme of the album, it's split into two discs, and then the second one opens with "Here Comes the Nighttime 2, which is actually the exact opposite feel of the first "Here Comes the Nighttime." And then this is followed by "Awful Sound" and "It's Never Over," which sort of complement each other. And then one that stood out to me even after listening it for the first time was the next track, which is called "Porno." It's not as inappropriate as it sounds. It just has a really good dance beat, and the lyrics are pretty good. "Afterlife" is the second to last track, which I'm assuming is more popular because I've been hearing it in public places. The album ends with "Supersymmetry," which sort of slows things down and brings them to a close. It features strange sounds that sort of put you in a state of relaxation, which is completely different than the beginning of the album. Now it's time for my favorite album of all time, "The Suburbs." This album has a nostalgic feeling that can really only be explained if you listen to the music, but I'll try my best. It starts off with the title track that really captures the essence of the album, in my opinion. You hear a cymbal crash, and then the song starts, and the tune kind of reminds me of riding your bike all over town as a kid. Lines like, "In the suburbs I learned to drive," and "Grab your mother's keys, we're leaving," put things into perspective and create that sort of nostalgic mood, but later the song becomes more dark and intense, which also goes along with the album well. The next few songs keep the flow of the album going, and then comes the songs "Half Light 1" and "Half Light 2," which are more powerful. And then these lead into "Suburban Warfare," which is one of my favorites. And then on to "Wasted Hours," which opens with the lyrics, "All those wasted hours we used to know, spent the summer staring at the window. The wind, it takes you where it wants to go." Again, childhood. It's a really good way to capture it. The last few songs wrap the album up really nicely. "We Used to Wait" is another favorite. The Sprawl 1 and the Sprawl 2, and then it ends with "The Suburbs Continue." "The Suburbs Continued," bringing the album to a perfect close. The last song is very short, but summarizes the end of "Innocence," with lyrics like, "If I could have it back, all the time that we wasted, I'd only waste it again," which I actually have part of that tattooed on my right arm. Before I end the show, I just want to talk about the Reflector tour that Arcade Fire is currently doing. I actually went to see them a couple weeks ago in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and it was amazing. Besides the fact that the band means so much to me, they just put on an amazing show in general. The stage had mirrors on the ceiling and was shimmering everywhere and just looked very cool. They opened on the stage opposite of the main stage that I was standing by with "My Body is a Cage." And then they came in onto the big stage, opening with "Reflector." And at times, Wynn would walk out and touch or grab the crowd and grab someone's phone and bring it on stage, and I thought that was pretty cool. And Regine and other members could be seen dancing as if they were the only ones in the concert hall. She had her moment also when they performed "The Sprawl 2," which is from "The Suburbs." She sings the lead vocals on that one. I also saw her playing accordion too. After the show ended, they came back and played a 2-song encore, starting with "Here Comes the Nighttime," which was absolutely flawless, and then ended with "Wake Up," which I assumed they would play, and that one was amazing too. That song's already wonderful, but to hear them play it live with the energy of all the people around me, it was just a really awesome experience. Overall, the show was everything I could have hoped for and more, and I'm actually thinking about seeing them in Chicago this summer. Thanks for tuning in to Music Talks, and hopefully you tune in next week to hear what we talk about.